Are we live? I think we are. We are live. We are live. Another Final Cut TV and Coffee. Another Saturday morning. 35 so far. We're heading into one full year of Final Cut TV and Coffee. We have our first comment from our good friend Jari Innanen. Hello, Richard, and good evening from Helsinki, Finland. Final Cut Pro 10.6.10, working fine here on Sonoma. Still waiting for my iPhone 15 Pro Max to arrive. Stay tuned, Jari. I have some speed tests with my iPhone 15 Pro Max with 3 different SSDs. And there's some interesting items, interesting speed things going on with the iPhone. Don says hello again from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. That's on the East Coast. That's pretty East Coast. As East Coast as you can get compared to the rest of the United States. 10.6.10 working for me as well. I haven't updated yet. I'm not against it. I'm glad everybody out there is doing it for me because I didn't have any of the issues they had with the FX Factory plugins, the tracing plugins, whatever they were, face masking, whatever that was. But we did talk about that, didn't we? We did talk about it right here on this show. I said, well, I expect 10.6.10 would be out, and I thought it would be out very quickly. So that was very interesting. As a matter of fact, let's just pull that up a second. Let me see. Here we go. This was the week before it came out. And that's why I suspect we're going to be seeing Final Cut Pro 10.6.10 very soon. Very soon. Then I expect Final Cut Pro 10.6.10 to be coming out very, very quickly. Could be out this week. I don't think it's going to be a big update. I think 10.6.10 is just going to be a bug fix. I think 10.7/11 will be the big update. So 10.7/11 will be the big update. Now the question is, of course, when are we going to see 10.7? When are we going to see 10.7? That is the question. Don says, echo and audio, that's because I had my mic up when I was playing that video back. It was picking it up. Yeah, I had my mic. Usually I mute my mic and then I forget to turn it back on when I come back. So this time I forgot to turn it off and it was echoing. It was playing back. I was playing back my MacBook and the MacBook speaker was going into the microphone, which is right here. And then that was going into the stream a little bit delayed. There we go. So, what do we have to talk about? Well, let's talk about, since I mentioned the iPhone 15 Pro Max speed test, thank you very much for the thumbs up. We already got thumbs up. We just barely started. We got our thumbs up. That's fantastic. Let me go to the speed test. Some interesting things here. Let me see, where the heck are they? That's interesting. I didn't put them on my hardware. I did not put them on my hardware. So another thing is, this is my latest purchase. I got this Viltrox 5.5-inch. Look, this thing is 1,200 nits. So you can really see it in daylight. 1,200 nits. Full HD, 4K on camera, blah, blah, blah. It comes with a battery. It comes with that connector at the bottom, which I bought one of those to mount it onto your DSLR. And it also comes with the cables and a sun hood that you can take off. But the sun hood is really nice. It just collapses. It springs out and collapses. And if you notice right here, look right there. There's a $14 off coupon that I use. So it was like $150 some, and I really like it so far. Thank you very much for the thumbs up. We got a lot of thumbs up already. So I really like this. It's on Amazon right now. I got it for my Lumix S5 Mark II X. This weekend I'm shooting some bands. I have one more band left. I did 3 bands last weekend live in the concert setting here at the studio. It's actually a garage, and I have one more tomorrow, Sunday. And I had 2 other monitors. One didn't have the batteries for, and one just didn't work. It just would work, and then it didn't work, and it got lines through it. So I went out and got this. I ordered this on Saturday, and they said it would be delivered by 11 o'clock on Sunday, and it was. It was delivered like at 9 o'clock. So I used it for the Sunday performance of the band. And the batteries are really, really cool with this thing. The batteries, they're like the Sony batteries, but they have all it takes is a USB-C cable. You don't have to put them in a charger. And it has the amount of charge it has on the back of the batteries. It's got like 5 or 6 LEDs. It tells you how much charge is left. If you press a button, it'll show you how much is left. But it's just, you plug in any USB-C cable that's plugged into power, and it'll charge the battery. I got 2 extra ones because I can swap them out. That also takes a, you can also use just a regular USB-C power bank plugged into the side, and that powers it as well. So it's very, very cool. I really like it so far. Let me see if we got this. Let's put this up. Final Cut TV and coffee, Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock. Thank you for the thumbs up. It's appreciated. All right, checking the monitor. The monitor looks good. Everything's looking good. So let's go over the speed test of the iPhone 15 Pro Max plugging in external SSDs. I have 3 different SSDs, USB SSDs that I tried to speed test on. So let's go over here. Turn this off. Turn this off. Oh, before we do that, let's talk about this. Blackmagic just came out with a camera update, 1.1 update, adds support for 2398, 2997, and 5994 frame rates, external timecode sync, remote lens control, as well as the ability to lock screen orientation. Download from the App Store free of charge. It's only been out for 1 week, 2 weeks, and they already got an update. They are incredible, Blackmagic is. So first let's look at this one. So first I tested my very old Samsung T3. This is the first one that I tested, my Samsung. It's USB-C, but it's very, very old. So I tested this one, and believe it or not, it registers on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and I can record 60 frames per second ProRes log, Apple ProRes log onto this thing. That was a surprise. So this is an old Samsung T3. This is one of the oldest ones I have. Let's check that one out first. And this is the speed that I got. So the write speed is 190 megabytes per second, and the read speed was 90 megabytes per second. This is the Samsung T3. So 190 write megabytes and 90 megabytes read. So this is a very slow one, but I don't know how many years old is that. I forget how many years it is. It's very, very old. So that's one. Now, I also have a Samsung T7. That I speed tested. And one of the things to realize, you can't use the cable that came with your iPhone because that's not a data cable. That's only a charging cable. You got to get, I use a Thunderbolt cable, or I have one. Well, let's look at them. Let's see what I have here. So I got these 20 gigabytes per second USB-C cables. Is that what it says? 20 gigabits per second. Gigabytes, gigabits. Gigabits, 20 gigabytes. I'm not sure which. But this is 20, and the iPhone is rated at 10. So this is twice as fast as the rating of the iPhone. But you really don't have to worry about that. And I got this little teeny cable. This one's not labeled. It is USB-C to USB-C, but it's not labeled. And I have some other ones. This is another one, not labeled. Doesn't have a label. It's hard to tell what speed it is. Your cable will affect the speed. So I use Thunderbolt typically. Thunderbolt cables, the speed, it goes all the way through USB-C without restricting it. So that's pretty cool. So I try to use Thunderbolt. So let's go back here. And we'll put up the T7. Now the T7, here's the T7, 606 megabytes per second write, 318 megabytes per second read. This is on the iPhone, connected directly into the iPhone. 606, 318, this is the Samsung T7. Now, I have one more drive, and that is the Samsung T7 Shield. And I got the T7 Shield specifically to go with my Lumix S5 Mark IIX. This is one of the ones they recommended. I'm staying away from SanDisk. There's no reason to risk it at this point. They've had a horrible time with a lot of things. Not only their disks are failing. It was a publicity disaster. They should have taken those off the market immediately and said, we'll replace the drive, any drive that you have, fix. They kept delaying and saying they had firmware fix, but that didn't work for a lot of people. So this is a Samsung T7 Shield. Now the T9, Samsung T9 is out now as well. And that's 2,000 megabytes per second, rated up to 2,000. So that would be a good one too. Let's see what this one goes to. Graphics. There's the T7, 606, 318. Here's the T7 Shield, which is kind of surprising. It's slower than the T7. 363 megabytes per second write and 478 megabytes per second read. So this one was slower to write, faster to read than this one. This one was faster to write and slower to read. So the T7 versus just a regular old 7. Oh, but here's the interesting thing. Here's the iPhone itself. When I just did a test on the iPhone internal SSD, look at this thing. The iPhone itself is very fast. 1677 megabytes per second and 1223 megabytes per second. This is the iPhone's internal SSD. Thank you very much for the thumbs up. So that is very, very fast for a phone. That's cool. But so the transfer, when you hook up an SSD to the phone, you don't get nearly the maximum. You get about half or less. The maximum is supposed to be 1,000 megabytes per second. Theoretical. In the real world, it's about half of that. In the real world, it's about half. So October is, around here at Final Cut TV and Coffee, October is the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit month. The entire month of October, we're going to be celebrating the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit because it's the biggest Final Cut Pro event in the world. Every year, the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit is the biggest event. Why wouldn't we celebrate that? Let's go over here. Well, we will. We absolutely will. So here we are, Final Cut Pro Creative Summit, Cupertino, November the 6th to the 8th. You know about it now. Keynote announcement, iJustine is going to be the keynote announcement. Now, she was there in 2018 as well, and I actually have a video of her entire presentation. I put up some of it in the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit documentary that I did, but she's going to be the keynote. She's going to be kicking off on Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Monday morning, stay tuned for more details. It's Apple Day, but Monday morning at 9 o'clock, iJustine is going to do the keynote. That'll probably be 45 minutes to an hour. It might be a break. And then we're having one more presentation Monday morning at the hotel. Let me see, that hotel is the Hyatt Regency Santa Clara. Now, be aware that the presentations are at the Hyatt Regency Santa Clara, but most people, FMC staff, and the presenters, and me, are staying at the Aloft Santa Clara, which is about a mile away. It's less expensive. $50 a night, less expensive, something like that. And then you can get your book rate by clicking on that link, on this link, and you can get your book rate, the book rate, the Future Media Concepts Final Cut Pro Creative Summit book rate there. It's about a mile away, so you have to make your way from that hotel to the Hyatt Regency. If you want every day, you have to go back and forth. You can share an Uber. It's 1 mile. I walk 2 miles every morning, so if the weather's nice, walking is not a problem. It's half of what I normally walk. I walk 7 days a week, 2 miles every morning between, in the morning before the sun comes up. So walking 1 mile to get to the other hotel where the presentations are is not going to be a problem. And then we're going to Apple Park. That's what it says, Apple Park, on Monday. So we have iJustine keynote. We have a second presentation after her. Then we go to lunch, and then we go to Apple Park via buses. 2 buses, at least 2 buses, maybe 3 buses. Typically what happens at Apple campus, whatever campus we go to, in the past we never got to Apple Park. We were supposed to twice, and twice it was canceled. We ended up going to one infinite loop. This time it has to be Apple Park because even the logo, look, the logo, this is Apple Spaceship Campus, Apple Park. So even the logo is showing Apple Park, and it says Apple Park here, Apple Park. So hopefully that's where we're going to go. But regardless of that, so here's what happened. We go to Apple Park. We go to Apple Park, Apple campus. We get a presentation from the Final Cut Pro team. They're on stage. Everybody lines into the auditorium. Maybe if it's Apple Park, maybe we'll get to go to the Steve Jobs Theater. That would be fantastic. That would be an extra bonus. So we get on the bus. Everybody's got to have their whatever. Apple's got to put a little badge on you and make sure you're allowed to be there and stuff. They're very strict with that. And then we'll load off the bus, go into Apple Park. Probably, if it's not the Steve Jobs Theater, maybe they have a smaller theater. But I'm expecting 150 to 200 people, or attendees, are going to be at the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. That's what I'm expecting. Thank you very much for the thumbs up. It's appreciated. So we're going to get off the bus, go to after lunch. We're going to get on the buses, go to Apple Park, get off the buses, and probably we're going to have a presentation from the Final Cut Pro team in Apple Park. Maybe the Steve Jobs Theater, I don't know. Maybe they have a different one. smaller one. But we're going to have 150, 200 people. That's a lot of people for one presentation. The Final Cut Pro team, this is what's happened in the past. 2016, 17, 2018, and 2019. The last in-person ones. The Final Cut Pro team shows us the latest and greatest version of Final Cut Pro on the latest and greatest hardware, whatever the new hardware is. Sometimes they have case studies, somebody who's done a film in Final Cut Pro, they'll have them there talking about it. And Yari says they need time to measure your head for Vision Pro. There you go. Unless that's the only way I can see the presentation, they're not going to measure my head because I'm not going to wear it. Not yet. Perhaps sometime in the future. That's funny, Yari. Yeah, maybe they have Vision Pro at the demo. So normally they show us a presentation on stage, which is very cool. Latest and greatest in Final Cut, maybe a case study or two, maybe some new hardware, other things. In the past, they've told us at these presentations, the one at NAB, they told us about the numbers of Final Cut, 2 million seats. A year later, it was 2.5 million. That was 2017 and 2018. So by now, it's 4 to 5 million Final Cut Pro seats, very, very likely. So we go to see the presentation. Typically, after the presentation, in the past, they divided us up into two groups. One group goes to a Final Cut Pro demo room that has the latest and greatest version of Final Cut Pro on the latest hardware. If there's new iMacs, whatever they have. Is Apple going to have an October event? Don't know. Nobody knows for sure if Apple's going to have a Mac event for October. If they do, we could see a preview of Final Cut Pro during that event. It could come out sometime in 2023. I really expect 10.7 to come out in 2023 because 10.6, 2 years old at this point. 10.6 is 2 years old. The typical time between full number updates recently has been 19 months. This time, we're at 24 months. Now, the exception was between 4 and 5, it was 3 years. Between 4 and 5, it was 3 years. So there's no guarantee that 10.7 is coming out, but I have a feeling since this is the first Final Cut Pro Creative Summit back, they might have something to show us. If they don't, they don't. My expectations are down here. My expectations are not up here. They were up here in 2019. Since 2019, they've gone way, way down. But I still have, not expectations, I still have hope that we're going to see 10.7 in 2023. If there's an Apple event, we could see a preview there. If not, we'll see perhaps a preview or it will be released at the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. What's in it? No idea. Other than text-based editing, auto captioning. That has to be in it. That has to be in Final Cut Pro 10.7. Has to be. They're 6 months behind everybody else that has that. So how they were incorporated, don't know. Have no idea. So what else do we have going on? We have this Final Cut Pro Creative Summit, November 6th to the 8th. Now, if you go to the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit, if you register, it's $299, and that includes a voucher for the Final Cut Pro certification exam, which is normally $149 by itself. So that's a pretty good deal. If you go there and you register, let them know that I sent you. Tell them that you came because Richard Taylor talked about it. Just little extra. I want them to know that these live streams are effective. That's all. Oh, by the way, I said October is Final Cut Pro Creative Summit month. We have 2 more major live streams coming up related to Final Cut Pro Creative Summit, including some of the presenters from Final Cut Pro Creative Summit are going to be on the show, and other people that are going to the summit. We're going to talk a lot about the summit. So we're going to be having those. Let me just pull up. Well, let me pull up the one. Well, just pay attention to my channel, my YouTube channel, and you will find out. There's going to be one Tuesday, early in the morning. That'll give you a hint. That'll give you a hint. Why is it early in the morning? Well, there's a reason why it's early in the morning. But some of the presenters from the Creative Summit are going to be on. We're going to talk about the Creative Summit. And there's lots of other things that I'll be talking about in the month of October leading up to the Creative Summit. It's 1 month away. It's less than 1 month. It's on the 6th, starts on the 6th. Most of us are getting in there on the 5th. So 1 month, the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. If there's no no Apple Mac event in October, the Creative Summit is the next best time to see an update of Final Cut Pro 10.7. That's the time. I mean, here's a scenario. They could release it at the Creative Summit because they've done that in the past. They did it in 2016, they did it in 2017, and they did it in 2018. 2016, they had a Mac event the day before the Creative Summit, but that was October. The Creative Summit was in October. So the day before the Creative Summit, they introduced the Touch Bar MacBook Pro. And while they were demoing that, the woman said, oh, by the way, this is a new version of Final Cut Pro. That was Final Cut Pro 10.3. Okay? Of course, that dominated the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit, which was the very next day. It was the next day, but that was October. That was the only Creative Summit recent one that's been in October. 2017, the Creative Summit was November, moved to November, and they introduced, at the Creative Summit, they introduced Final Cut Pro 10.4. At the Creative Summit, they introduced Final Cut Pro 10.4. 1 year later, in 2018, they introduced Final Cut Pro 10.4.4, which had a lot of features, new features to it. Now, they demoed it at the Creative Summit in 2018. It didn't come out until December. So they gave us a preview, and they allowed us to talk about it. They allowed the attendees of the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit to post on social media that Final Cut Pro 10.4.4, so Final Cut Pro 10.4 and 10.4.4 both were announced at the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. Both of those were announced. 10.3 was announced less than 24 hours before the Creative Summit at a Mac event, but it was also in Cupertino. So there's 3 full number big updates, feature updates that have been announced around the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. That's why I'm saying Final Cut Pro 10.7 could indeed be announced between now, if there's a Mac event, if there's an Apple Mac event in October, they could preview it at the Mac event. They've done that in the past. If not, if there's no Mac event and they don't preview it during October, the next best time is November the 6th through the 8th, probably on November the 6th. They very well could introduce a new version of Final Cut Pro at the Creative Summit with new features. Am I expecting it? No. My expectations are down here. I'm hoping for it, but my expectations have been tempered. They're down here. So, but I'm still hoping. Expectations, hope, up there. So, we'll see. If nothing happens, that's okay. We're still going to go to Apple Park. We're still going to see the Final Cut Pro team. Oh, by the way, the Final Cut Pro team. So let's go to the program here. Final Cut Pro team. So we get to see him on Apple Day, the Final Cut Pro team, and we get to see him. So these are all the different schedules they have. You have to choose one or the other. You have to choose this one or this one, this one or this one. You got to choose every day for most of these. There are two different sessions going on at the same time. This first one, Steve Martin against Mark Spencer. They're going against each other. Same time slot. This is Tuesday morning. And then here we have, well, I don't know what TBD is, to be determined, but Tuesday night, we're going to have networking night, which is a big, very cool event. All the sponsors come there and they show their plugins and they show their things. You get to talk, you get to have food. And then this is Wednesday morning. These are all the sessions. You got to choose one or the other, Choose one. And look at this. Dialogue with Apple, Q&A with the Final Cut Pro team. Dialogue with Apple, Q&A with the Final Cut Pro team. This is where the attendees of the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit, us, 150, 200 of us, get to sit down in the same room, one-on-one with the Final Cut Pro team. That closes the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. That closes the summit. That's the last thing on Wednesday night. That's one of the best things. Typically, if they follow suit what they've done in the past, you could submit questions ahead of time. They ask you to submit questions ahead of time so they can see if they're going to answer them or not. They don't answer every question. And things that are discussed in that room with the one-on-one, the Final Cut Pro team are supposed to stay in that room. That is not for public consumption. People that come to the summit are spending a lot of money because you got to get airfare, you got to get a hotel, you got to pay for the ticket, you got to take off work. So there's a large financial commitment to go to the summit. Meeting with the Final Cut Pro team is one of those perks of us who are going to the summit. We get to see with the Final Cut Pro team, but it's not for the general public. That meeting is not for the general public. That's for the attendees of the Creative Summit, one of the perks. If the Final Cut Pro team is confident, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be because it's never been a problem in the past, that everything they say in that room is going to stay in that room. No videotaping, no audio taping, no photographs of the team. You can probably take photographs of the audience, but not the team. If it stays in that room, they're a little more forthcoming than if they're talking to the general public. So they might tell us something that we won't be able to tell on social media. It won't be Final Cut Pro 10.7 because if they're going to show that, they're going to show that in the demo room. They're going to show that on stage. And in the past, we've been allowed to talk about that immediately. Please do. Put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook, put it on YouTube. Please do. So that'll be immediate. That's not what I'm talking about. Then maybe they'll answer a question that they wouldn't answer in public. Maybe they'll say something about a roadmap, but that's going to stay in that room. So here we have another comment says, I had a dream 10.7 was released and was amazing. That would be phenomenal. That would be phenomenal. Don said, I've wondered if Apple dropped the X from the name because the next major release will be version 11. Well, yes, of course. The next major version could be 11. This could, I always say 10.7, 11, /11, 7.11, 7.11. Doesn't make any difference what they name it. If it's 11, I expect it to be a much bigger update. But I don't think that 11 is ready yet. 11 is going to probably be a brand new version of the app. It's going to be a complete rewrite from the ground up, the way they did Final Cut Pro 10. Probably. That's just my guesstimation. Probably going to be a major rewrite of the software. But I'm thinking this year, if we get 10.7 with some new features, come on, text-based editing and auto captions, they have to be in 10.7. They have to be working on that. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's one of the things I'm confident that'll be in 10.7. So that's it. 10.7 at by the Creative Summit, between now and the Creative Summit. They could preview it if they have a Mac event. I don't know if they're going to. If not, the summit's only a month away, 4 weeks away. What's tomorrow? Sunday is tomorrow. I'll be flying in on Sunday to Cupertino, Santa Clara, and Sunday we're flying. Most people are flying in, so Monday morning we can get to the hotel. 9 a.m. is the keynote with iJustine, and we start a very, let me tell you, a very intense 3 days. Because, thank you very much for the thumbs up, it's appreciated. Because you have 3 days of sessions. Besides Q&A with the Final Cut Pro team that ends the summit, besides that, Apple Day is on Monday. Apple Day starts with the keynote with iJustine on Monday. We end up at Apple Campus, and then we have a couple of panels. This is a panel, and then you got to go back and forth and choose which one of these you want to go to. So there's always 2 sessions simultaneous. You have to decide which one you go to. You can't go to both because they're happening at the same time. So what I'm saying is once we get to the Creative Summit, once it starts, it's like running. It's like running. Thank you very much for the thumbs up. I appreciate it. You just run for 3 days. Thank you very much for the thumbs up. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. So for 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you get there Sunday, or you can't get there Monday morning because things are already happening Monday morning. And you certainly don't want to miss the keynote. You don't want to miss going to Apple. That's one of the biggest things. It's like running for 3 days. And we even have to walk from one hotel to the other or take an Uber, one or the other. Thank you very much for the thumbs up. It is appreciated. So, of course, I'll be reporting live from the Creative Summit. That's what I do. I report live from NAB. I report live from anywhere I go. This is the first time in 4 years that we've been together for Final Cut Pro. This is the biggest event, Final Cut Pro event in the world. NAB is not. There was nothing at Final Cut Pro about Final Cut Pro at NAB this year. I still went. I tried to find some things. Thank you for the thumbs up. Appreciate it. So, I'll be glad to see anybody that's in the audience that's going to the Creative Summit. I'll be glad to see you. Make sure you stop up and say hi. I'll be there filming different things the way I normally do. I did the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit documentary. You can find that on my YouTube channel. It's 42 minutes, 43 minutes, something like that. And then pay attention this week. We have some more presenters from the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit that are going to be on this show. We're going to talk about the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. We have 2 multi-guests with guest sessions coming up over the next 2 weeks. I'm not going to pre-announce them, but just pay attention to the YouTube channel, and don't forget to go to, what is that? Well, go to Final Cut. Let me go over here a second. Let me go over here. I will pull this up for you so you can see. This is the best place to go if you want to continue discussing any of these live streams. Final Cut Radio TV. This is the best place to go. We have all kinds of discussions. You can see we're on there live right now. We're live on there. And we have discussions about Final Cut Pro, and we have discussions about the videos. This was a popular one on YouTube, which we had. Final Cut Pro 10.7 came out. But just go to the YouTube channel, Richard Taylor TV, and you can subscribe, and you'll be notified whenever I go live. So this week, I have one early Tuesday morning. It's very early. Pay attention, and we'll have special guests from the Creative Summit, and we're going to have more broadcasts about the Creative Summit coming up this week. All right, that's about it for today. I'm going to go to Mount Airy, Maryland. If it's not raining, they're having an Oktoberfest. They shut down Main Street, and it looks like it's going to be pretty interesting. I'm going to be filming more with my iPhone 15 Pro Max. I'll be filming some more. I really, really, really like Apple Log. Apple, it's ProRes Log. It's ProRes HQ, but they call it Apple ProRes Log. I really, really like this. It is some of the best quality I've ever gotten out of the iPhone. Takes up a lot of storage. You do not need an SSD to record Apple ProRes Log. You only need the SSD if you're doing 60 frames per second. But if you're doing 30 frames per second or 24 frames per second, it'll shoot it internally to your SSD. That's why I got a 1 terabyte version. A 1 terabyte version. So, getting files off of here is pretty good. You got to use a proper cable. You can transfer it to the SSD. You can transfer it to your MacBook. It's 5 to 10 times faster than Lightning. It's still not 1,000 megabytes per second. It's about 500 or 600 you can transfer files, but it's dramatically faster than Lightning. And it's more reliable than AirDrop. AirDrop, it's unreliable for me. All right. I think I'm going to finish up here. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. It's appreciated. It's appreciated. Pay attention. We're going to be live Tuesday morning, early Tuesday morning, with another episode of Final Cut TV. And we have special guests. And there's a reason why it's going to be early in the morning. Presenters from the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. Tuesday morning. All right? I'll see everybody later. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it.